What up, and welcome to Designated Reports Boxing Podcast. My name is Louis. I'm your host. That's Gene. He's your co-host. This is episode 12, and it will be our last episode of the year. So really looking forward to getting into it. What up, Gene?
What's good, bro? I
Ain't
see you got
nothing,
your beanie on, man. It's cold over there?
Yeah, down in Florida, we actually got some Christmas weather, so I'm actually kind of excited, dropping to the 40s today. So I figured, I have some winter gear, so I want to throw it on. Match my boy in New York, know what I mean?
Yeah, I see you. I see the swag.
All right, so happy holidays to everyone. Had some great boxing the last couple of weeks. I do want to start off with a guy who you and I actually missed on the last two episodes, which is probably my fault. Let's jump right into him. Edgar Berlanga, right?
Berlanga.
He is say it again?
Berlanga.
I'm actually proud of myself for pronouncing that right. I got that two vowel issue. So the dude is absolutely a monster. He has a ton of power. But you and I have been asking ourselves the last, several weeks, is this guy for real? So I have my opinion. We're going to start with yours. Let me know what you think, bro.
Is he for real? It's too early to tell, man. It's way too early to tell because at the end of the day, he's exciting and he's knocking the dudes the hell out like an early Tyson. It's not going past the first round. Literally, it's not going past the first round.
Literally.
But you can only judge someone on who they fight, and so far he hasn't fought anyone, man. I mean, and you don't want to just jump on his back and say, listen, he's fighting a bunch of bums, but we also have to be realistic that he's not fighting the A1 fighters right now. So is he really that nice? We don't know yet.
Yeah, I'm on the same time as you, man. Like, I think his power is real. I do think that.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of him being a full prospect, and can he be, I actually have no idea because he's fighting the exact same opponent every fight. That's a guy who can't move his feet, a guy who can't move his hips, and a guy who's short as hell can't move his head. So he's basically fighting some punching bags. Now, I don't want to disrespect the guys like that in the sense that, you got to respect anybody that gets in the ring, especially when they get in the ring with a knockout artist like that. But he's basically being set up to fight guys who can't move, to display his power. So I'm going to judge him off of that, basically meaning like, is he putting out performances that we want to see? Yeah. But in terms of who he is as a fighter, we don't know yet, man. Until we see somebody move their feet, move their head, work a jab against this dude, we don't know what he has. So I think he's exciting, but I think the question's still out on Berlanga.
And I'm assuming his managers are doing their jobs, right? They're building his name up there, so then down the line he can get that big fight. Because I mean, it's not like Tyson came out the gate and was just fighting A1 fighters off rip. You gotta throw some sheep to the wolves. But he's doing whatever he gotta do, and he's knocking dudes the hell out. But it'll be interesting in about a year or so to see that level of competition. And we can say that about a lot of young fighters. So he's not the only one.
No. One thing that on Twitter this weekend, I seen that he said that he would have got Colin Smith out of there by like the 8th round. And I was like, listen, daddy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because listen, if Canelo didn't get him out.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Like, slow your roll, partner. But I love the confidence. Look, and he's a Puerto Rican from, I believe, either Brooklyn or the Bronx. He has a big following in New York. So I'm on the bandwagon. Listen, I want to see a Puerto Rican super middleweight dominate. You know what I'm saying? But, I can't just be biased just based off of those things.
That's facts.
So I think we both agree we're on the same cush in terms of Berlanga, meaning that all the talent's there, but we actually got to see him display it against some talent as well on the other side. All right, so moving on to some gossip. You know what I'm saying? Some boxers acting like some hoes in the streets. One of my favorite fighters, actually Lomachenko, recently had an interview, and he came out talking out his neck, talking about something along the lines that he believed he wanted to fight. The judges were bribed. Talk to us a little bit more about it because I know you have the details. What's our dude thinking though?
I mean, that's your dude. First of all, I ain't pick him to win that fight. But
yeah,
in this interview, he's kind of alluding to the fact that he felt that the judges were bribed for whatever reason. He said that he went back and watched the fight, and it was closer than people thought, and especially the last 3 rounds, he felt that he performed better in 2 out of the 3 rounds, which should have gave him the win. I don't know which fight he was watching, But for me, he didn't even win the first 6 or 7 rounds. And let's keep the stack. So he needs to have those people in his corner to really reel him in and just let him know that, listen, you know, you're still a great fighter, but this fight you just didn't have it. And it goes back to saying, like, you could be a champion when it's all good, when you're winning and you're always highlighted and you're on every magazine cover. But how do you act when you catch that L? To me, he's going down the same path as Deontay Wilder. So next week we're gonna hear his water got spiked. We're gonna hear that his boxing trunks was too heavy. Like, what is it? You know, like, nah, you took that L, just move on.
Yeah, I think that. He's another guy that's trained by his father too. Shout out to that. We covered that on the last podcast. Yeah, I think that I don't know what fight he watched, going back to your point, because who told him to throw 50 punches in the first 6 rounds? Right? Like, all right, let's say you won the next 5 rounds. You're still down 7-5. And you didn't do that. You know what I mean? So I think he's just taking a book out of Deontay Wilder's page, being a sore loser, almost like he didn't believe he could lose to this guy. And he still is clearly... Yeah, he's still in shock, but
still in shock.
Yeah, like go back and watch that fight 10 more times, and you might feel a little differently.
My man, when he said he felt like he won the second round, that's all I needed to know. Because you didn't win the first 5-6 rounds at all.
Easily. I remember watching the fight and being in the 7th round and be like, "Yo, Lomachenko has to stop this guy to win."
Yeah.
Like, or at least drop him to get that 2-point difference in to make up some ground. And even if he did pick it up on the 9th, 10th, and 11th. There's still 9 other rounds, dude.
And he clearly lost the 12th round. Clearly.
Yeah, I don't think he won the 12th. Wasn't it? I think Teofimo actually landed like some big shots at the end, right?
Yeah, in the 12th round. Like he had him in the corner. He caught him with a solid right hook. But going back to that, do you think he should just stay at 130? He should go back down to 130, or maybe
I think there's some fights for him at 135. I mean, I think if he wants to try to get the Teofimo rematch, then, you know, I don't blame him for that. But if I'm Teofimo, why do I even want that fight? You know, so I think that, you know, depending on the way things can play out here, because there's a lot of fighters around that 130, 135. I mean, Shakur, you got
exactly
Tank.
what I was gonna say.
You can even go match him against Leo Santa Cruz. You got Devin Haney. There's the Garcia dude who's coming up. So there's a lot of fights, and maybe if he wins 1 or 2 of those, maybe Teofimo will get back in there with him. But I think one of the things that we saw with Teofimo is that his confidence has took off, and he's certainly one of the stars in boxing. He is the draw. So you're going to have to really, outside of like an accomplishment, meaning he wins a belt, you're really going to have to bring something to that purse for him to fight you. And I just don't see it.
Yeah.
All right, so that was, you know, some gossip there. Now we got some other news straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. There was an interview this weekend where Errol Spence Jr. Basically talking about what his plans could be coming up, and he basically outbid himself when it came to the Crawford fight. Anytime you go, anytime you say, he said 3 things. He said 60-40, maybe 70-30. Whatever, he has to take whatever we give him. Bro, could you be more disrespectful in terms of, like, you know what I'm saying? Just the negotiating side is like, bro, we're going to give you the crumbs if we want to fight you. I don't think he wants to fight. What do you think?
I don't know what his team is telling him, man. Because once I hit 70-30, I know that you don't want to fight. And to be honest with you, that's like super disrespectful. But here's the thing, right? What people need to understand, if you look at Errol Spence, if you look at his last 4 pay-per-view buys, he's doing close to 400,000 buys per fight, right? So I can understand why he feels like he's the A side. Right? It's almost like you have some actors out there. You have like a Tom Cruise or Will Smith. They're getting $30-40 million a movie because they're performing at the box office. Terrence Crawford, he fights for free on ESPN. So going back to the drawing board, I can see where Errol Spence says, hey, if I'm doing damn near 400,000 fights, and the first fight you said it was because it was Mikey Garcia, but I did the same thing with Sean Porter, then it's because they want to see me. I have a huge following in Texas, and I'm bringing in the money. But if this is the fight that everyone wants to see, if you ask any boxer, if you ask any fan, what's the number 1 fight you want to see in 2021? Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence. So if you want to make the fight, you got to stop talking that 70-30. Even if you look at the breakdown for the Danny Garcia fight, Danny Garcia got like 45% cut.
Yep.
So how are you going to tell me Terrence Crawford is going to get a 30%?
Yo, my man, you racking up points right now. You racking up points, dude. Keep going. Keep going. You racking them up. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, man. He don't want the fight. Right? Now, there's a perfect example of what we're talking about this weekend with Canelo and Colin Smith. Canelo came out second, and Colin is the champion. Mm-hmm. The only reason why that happened is because Canelo's the big money draw, right? So he had to agree. The champion had to agree to come out first. So we know that happens in boxing, and I believe that Mayweather used to do the same shit too. Yeah. So yeah, at the end of the day, whoever draws the biggest audience, the biggest crowd, that's going to be the A side. And I'm not going to say that, including with all your points, that Spence doesn't deserve that. What I am saying, though, is Terrence Crawford deserves more than 40%.
Of course.
So I think we can both agree on that. Now, here's the thing that I will say that I think he did that was really, really smart. He basically said no to Terrence Crawford and then gave us an upsell with Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah.
Right? So basically what he was saying was like, I can skip him in my welterweight, what I've done in the welterweight class, I'm okay with. I can then go up to weight and fight the biggest fighter in the world. So what he's doing is it's marketing, right? It's like he's actually building his bag up for the Terrence Crawford fight. But also, if it doesn't happen, he can say he had his eyes on a bigger fish. So it's actually kind of genius from his side of things.
Well, my thing,
I just don't like it for boxing.
If he goes up to fight Canelo and he loses, that Terrence Crawford fight ain't gonna happen, because sitting in the wings, you can fight Manny Pacquiao, Terrence Crawford, and if you beat those two, go for that super ultra payday in Canelo. So at the end of the day, this fight has to be made, but you have to give the guy better terms. And has Terrence Crawford ever fought on pay-per-view?
This last fight, it wasn't on pay-per-view?
No, it was on. He fights strictly on ESPN with Top Rank. So my thing is, we don't know.
I think ESPN. We'll have to fact check this. I think ESPN has a pay-per-view.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure like the last 3 or 4 fights, Terrence has been on ESPN solely. So we don't even know if he can produce pay-per-view numbers. But to this day, if that fight was made, that would be both of those fighters' biggest paydays.
Yeah, no
so that's
doubt.
Another incentive. So at the end of the day, you have to give the guy a better shot, because he'll have his supporters tuning in to help generate revenue.
But not only that, just that fight's big enough to where people will hear about it. They don't even watch boxing. They'll say, "Oh, it's a really good fight." So I could see you doing really well, maybe pushing over 1 million, maybe like 1.2 million
easily.
But I think if I'm Terrence Crawford, just to pivot here, I'm pushing for Manny Pacquiao at this point, right? Because if I go fight Manny Pacquiao, there's a really good chance I can win that fight, and then based off of those numbers, because Manny Pacquiao is going to help kill it. He then can argue and say, I was part of the top 15, 20, whatever it is, right? So that would give him some leverage. But listen, if Spence went on a run and fought like Terrence Crawford, Manny Pacquiao, and then Canelo Alvarez, even if he lost to Canelo, like that's a hell of a career in itself. So
look, I tell you this, if he fights those other 2 guys and he ends up winning, and then Canelo's waiting in the wing, I'm saying it right now, that pay-per-view is going to beat Pacquiao Floyd.
Ooh. I mean, it could, especially because we're have them in their prime, right? Yep. Canelo's younger than Spence. A bunch of these guys, Canelo's actually younger than them.
I think he was 21, 22 when he fought Floyd.
Something like that, man. Something like that. Right? Yeah. But even if, now let's touch on that real quick. So Canelo Alvarez has been sparring light heavyweights and heavyweights. You've seen him totally dominate a 168 pounder. I don't know if that fight can actually be made at 160. I think it would be made at a catch weight, like maybe 164 or something like that. And, if I'm Canelo, if he's coming up and he wants me, I'm going to make him do everything in my favor, just like he's trying to make Crawford do everything in his favor. So, I mean, we're certainly getting ahead of ourselves, but that would be really, really exciting if Spence in
Well, I don't know if
Canelo.
Canelo is lying because during his press run this previous week, he said he loves Spence's fighting techniques and he loves him as a fighter, and he would be willing to go down to 154. He could have been talking bullshit,
Bruh.
but
I didn't hear that. I'm gonna take your word for it.
yeah.
But him being at, basically the last 2 years between 168 and 175, I mean, that would be a lot on the body. And then the thing is, he's only going to come down for that one fight. He's not going to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
So then to come back up, I would just let Errol Spence work his way up to you and then say, listen, catch weight, let's get it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, interesting to see. I hope that the Spence Crawford fight does work out, but right now it don't seem like it will, at least not in 2021. So, all right, now another fight that's been in the news before we get into the Canelo breakdown, Triple G breakdown. So AJ and Fury have already verbally agreed, supposedly, for a fight to take place in either May and June, I believe, in the UK. Now, I don't know what that means for our boy Deontay Wilder. I don't know if he stepped aside yet, but I really like these talks. I don't know what needs to be done. I think the networks probably have to get, because they're on two different networks. One's on Sky and the other one's on maybe
Matchroom or something like that.
No, but I think he's with ESPN. I think Fury's with ESPN.
Yeah.
So whatever umbrella it is, I think those are the only things that are last in terms of the details. What do you think about that? I absolutely love it. I think we said on the last one, look, at this point, Wilder needs to just move out the way, and we need to see these two big dogs get in the ring. It looks like it's gonna happen. What do you think?
That's I'd rank that number 2 in my most anticipated fights for 2021 after the Terrence Crawford, the Errol Spence. Deontay Wilder shot himself in the foot. The second fight wasn't close, and then there's been a lot of controversy out of it. So he needs to go fight a Andy Ruiz or a Dylan White or somebody of that stature. Let these two big dogs, 1A, 1B, fight each other. AJ's out here selling over 1 million pay-per-view buys, so people are tuning in. They both got a whole country behind them, and there's gonna be a country divided. So let's make the fight happen, man. But the way AJ's fought the past 2 fights, I feel like he'll definitely give him a better chance than what I was thinking 1 or 2 years ago. But nothing's stopping it. This has to be made, man.
Yeah, I think especially with COVID and everything, I think guys, especially those two heavyweights, I think that they just want to get in the ring with each other. I don't even think they want any other fights, which is one of the things that you got to love about it. I think if it happens, I think this will probably be top 3 pay-per-view fights of all time.
Of course.
And I think that if there is, let's say it's a close fight and somebody gets knocked out, I think it's a rematch. I think if it's a close fight and it goes to the scorecards, I think there's a rematch. So, because we already know that they're supposedly agreed on a 2-fight deal. Mm-hmm. Now, the only way I see that not happening is somebody absolutely gets destroyed. So I think it's really exciting for boxing, especially if you get it done in the first half of the year. Then I think you wait a whole year and then do it again the following summer. So I'm really excited about that, man, because that would literally be something to look forward to, especially on that first half of the year next year.
Well, they said they're thinking May, but I think not only will it be like one of the biggest pay-per-views ever, I really believe that both of these fighters have about 3 or 4 more fights in them, and then that's a wrap. Because if you look at the heavyweight division, like what other super marquee name matches can they do, right? AJ, he only has to fight Wilder, right? Like who else do they have waiting in the wing? So these guys, if they have 2 fights, if these 2 fights are close and they have a trilogy, they're all walking away with over 100 million per fight, and then they're calling it a wrap.
Yeah,
leave there with your health and your sanity, and it's a wrap. Yeah,
I think the one guy that might stick around a little bit longer is AJ. Especially if he loses, I can see him sticking around. Listen, if you're Tyson Fury and you win, yo, just walk off in the sun, man. Like you're gonna go down as one of the all-time great heavyweights. Mm-hmm. Probably can be argued that you're the best heavyweight in the last 10 years for his era. So
beat everyone.
Unless there's a crazy bag, but yeah, really, really excited about that. Now, let's talk a little bit about a fight that 2 fights that actually happened this past weekend. I'm gonna let you start off with the Triple G fight because I didn't watch it because I didn't know who he was fighting and I didn't think it was gonna be much of a fight. I did catch some highlights. I know you peeped it out, so talk to us. Tell us what you saw and what you thought.
Yeah, I tuned in just to see how Triple G looked. You know, he had a long layoff, as most of these boxers had a long layoff because of COVID. But he looked like the Triple G of old, man. He dominated the whole fight from beginning to end. His jab looked super clean. I don't even remember the guy who was fighting, to be honest with you, but it was pretty much over after the third round. The ref should have stopped the fight 1 or 2 times. But Triple G looked like Triple G, and he always looks like Triple G until he fights Canelo.
Yep, and that's how good Canelo is.
And that's how good Canelo is. So it's an A+ performance. He always does it, you know. So I mean, I didn't really take anything new away from this fight. You know, the only thing is
you didn't see anything in this fight that said, "Oh, he can beat Canelo now," right?
Hell no, bro.
Right? Yeah, no.
Listen, they fought what 2 years ago, so that he's a year and a half older now, and Canelo's out here beating a 6'5". Nah. Come on,
yeah,
stop.
my dude's out brought the points today. You racking them up, baby.
Yeah, come on.
So let's segue into the Canelo fight. Firstly, you know, Callum Smith probably has to walk around at least 190 pounds.
Easily.
Right? So that's the first thing that I noticed. And I think Canelo is targeting bigger men on purpose. Mm-hmm. I'll get back to that point later on. So based off of his performance, though, here's a guy who is, 5 inches shorter than you. He's walking you down. Mm-hmm. He's coming from lighter weight classes. So how is the lighter man, smaller man walking the much bigger man down? So 2 things. One, his defense going forward is out of this world. Yeah. There's only other 2 people that I can think of. You're not going to like one of them. The first guy is Pernell Whitaker. Mm-hmm. The second guy is actually Lomachenko. Yeah. So that's the kind of defense Canelo has now. So some of these guys' size and height, it actually doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
And then when he has the power and the punching ability and the IQ that he has, I don't really see anybody stopping him, man. You really are going to have devastating power for Canelo not to be able to do the things that he does. And I just don't see anybody that he's going to get in the ring with that has that. And what did you like about his performance? And what did you think about Callum Smith?
I mean, looking at Callum Smith, man, after the second round, I feel like he didn't want to be in there. Because he didn't use any of the advantages that he had. And I was telling my boy, like, it gets to a point like, fuck all that, that structure shit, man. If you got to thug it out in the ring, thug it out, man, right? I want everyone that's listening to this, go Google Callum Smith right arm, right? Because did you see that picture? Swollen. And after the fight, they said that Canelo targeted that right arm.
Because he likes to come back after blocking, throwing the hook. So basically what Canelo was doing was trying to shut that down by him not being able to bend and open his arm. And he actually did it.
And he did it, so it was kind of disappointing to see Smith not using his advantages. But when you're in there with a beast, man, it's like Tyson said, everyone got a game plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? And with that performance, I started thinking like, yo, who the hell can beat this guy?
Yeah, no, I and he's fought other guys who have length and size who can punch, like, Danny Jacob, who we just talked to Danny's trainer, brother Fareed, on the last Boxing That Out. So I think one of the things that I saw that was really, really impressive was not only Canelo being able to walk this guy down and take on the size, but throw punch combinations on a taller guy from the body to the head, mixing up levels. We've seen that highlight where he feinted the right hand and then threw an uppercut on a guy 5 inches taller than him. Mm-hmm. I mean, this dude is just insane. So one of the things that I think about Smith, I think he came into the fight with the game plan of not getting knocked out.
Yeah.
I think to him, that was the victory because he knew he wasn't going to win on the scorecards and he sure couldn't have thought he was going to knock Canelo out. So I think his team was like, look, if we come out this alive, standing on 2 feet, this is a win for us.
See, but I hate that because
I do too.
You look at
remember, he took the fight in 4 weeks as well.
Bro, look at a kid, Lopez, right? Lopez went out there and was like, yo, y'all been talking all this Lomachenko shit. When I get there, I'm going to go do what I got to do, right? You're saying, okay, he had 4 weeks to prepare. How long did Andy Ruiz have to prepare for AJ?
Probably like 3 weeks.
Okay, then. But he took that opportunity and he was, and AJ was taller than him, stronger than him. He moves better.
My man brought the ammo today. You came out shooting today, baby.
at the end of the day, this is the only opportunity
Yeah, nah,
you're gonna get to beat a guy like this. So you
are
have
spot
to,
on.
like, you have to pull it out, man. I don't want to hear like, yo, I came in here just not to get knocked out. So stay home then.
Well, I mean, if you put 10 million on it, you're gonna show up. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna show up for that bag.
Yo,
So,
but
nah, I
I'm
think
gonna
we
show up
both-
for that bag, but I'm gonna, yo, 10 for 10, I'm gonna try to win that shit.
Yeah, and I thought just there was a lot of punches that he threw that he didn't really put nothing behind him. You know, it was almost like he didn't want to hurt Canelo.
Yeah, and you
know
can
what
see
I'm saying?
it.
And when I say that, almost not the fact that he couldn't. It was almost like he was like, I always say there's silent agreements that go on in boxing.
Mhm.
Meaning both fighters decide, okay, we're gonna keep the work level right here. You see what I'm saying? So I saw a little bit of that in Smith, and you could tell at the end when he was looking at the clock and holding, he was like, I'm just trying to make it out alive.
It was like, ref, call the timeout.
Like, speed this shit up. Yo, the funny thing is about that point you brought up about his arm. So, and when you're watching the fight, Canelo actually pointed at his arm and asked him if it hurt and laughed.
Going with him.
Yeah, and then they both laughed, and Kellum Smith shared that after the fight.
All right, so let me ask you a question, right? Obviously, Canelo is, you know, the man, pound for pound, the number one. I know we switch it up but he is the number one pound for pound.
Nah, he's number one.
Give me two opponents, all right, aside from Errol Spence that you would like to see Canelo fight right now.
Oh, man. Whew. All right.
I'll give you one and you give me the other. My thing is, I feel like the only fighter, win or lose, who's going to go out there and compete his ass off is Jamal Charlo.
That would have been one of them.
If he was going there with Canelo, with the way that he carries himself, I know that he's going all out. That's the last thing that you got to worry about. We don't know if he'll be successful, but we know he'll show up to fight.
Right. So yeah, that's a good one. That's certainly one of them. I think David Benavidez is a guy who. So all the things we were just talking about, Smith needed to do with his size. David Benavidez actually does all those things, and he is a legit 6'2", 6'3". So that would be a really, really interesting, entertaining fight. I don't think David has built his name up yet to get the fight, but that's a fight that I would definitely want to see. And if I had to pick the other one, it would probably be one of the Charlo brothers. But I do want to say this
on the outside looking in Caleb Plant.
Oh, I love Caleb Plant. I love this. I don't think it would be a great fight unless Caleb Plant was boxing his ass off and it forced Canelo to,
listen, he's not out here dropping guys, but Plant is out here boxing his ass off though.
But that's what I'm saying. Plant is probably a top in that weight division. He's probably the top 5, one of just pure boxers, being able to move, work his punches from at range. He's really good defensively. He can take a punch. I just don't know if he has the power to keep Canelo away, which I do think the Charlo brother does. Oh yeah. Now I do want to say this. So for this fight in the last 2 years, Canelo has actually been sparring with heavyweights. One of the heavyweights that he's been sparring with was actually on the undercard. His name is Frankie Sanchez, who had that big knockout. Yeah. He's a Cuban fighter, Olympian, has a lot of talent. So Canelo's been working his way up in some of these weight classes, but he's not naturally the bigger guy. I personally think Canelo is making his way up to picking 1 or 2 heavyweights specifically to fight, so that maybe in the next 3 years he's going to have a fight in the heavyweight division. Here's a couple reasons why. Not only do we know he's sparring with heavyweights, Andre Ward was actually targeting Anthony Joshua to fight him.
Really?
And Andre Ward is actually a smaller guy, much like our boy Canelo is, who's actually making his way up. So I think that Canelo, especially now that he has a heavyweight in his camp in Andy Ruiz, think about that. Let's say Ruiz got a belt in 2 years or whatever. You wouldn't be like, yo, let's get this fight on. Canelo versus Andy, like an all-Mexican heavyweight.
But you know what I mean? But in terms of body size, I can see where he'll fight a guy like Andy Ruiz, but a Canelo versus AJ or Tyson Fury or even a Wilder?
No, he's going to have to pick, like when Roy Jones went up and did it. Yeah. Roy Jones picked John Ruiz. Yeah. He might have been like 6'1", 200 and like 30, 40 pounds.
Heavyweight, okay.
Right. So he's going to have to pick the heavyweight that he wants to fight. but I think Canelo's going in that direction, man.
Yeah.
So I actually tweeted it out this weekend. Save that tweet. What do you think about that? And outside of the two fighters, where do you see Canelo's future going? Kind of finish this off.
I mean, the sky's the limit for him, but I think
he's only 30.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't think he'll go to the heavyweight because there's less great heavyweight fighters right now. But where he's at, the 168, the 160s, there's plenty of fighters out here.
Yeah, it really is.
For him to make good bank and to give us some good matches. So I think 168 might be like the last spot that we'll see him in. We don't know. It can change. But if
he's already won a belt at 175, and there is a guy. I'm trying to think of his name. I see it. I can't pronounce it, so I'm not going to. But there's an undefeated 175 pounder that a lot of people would like him to fight. But this dude is really big. So I can see him fighting again at 175. But there's so many fighters at 160, 168.
That's what I'm saying. You got a whole plethora of fighters to choose from.
Yeah, he can certainly live here for the next 2 years. But that's what I'm saying. If he does that for 2 years, okay, he's 32, maybe 33.
Mm-hmm.
Do we see him retiring anytime soon?
Maybe. We don't know.
You know, let's say if he's at 35, okay, he's going to stay at 168 for the next 5 years? I don't know, man.
It all depends on the purses, man. If he's steadily bringing in 70, 80 to 100 the next 3, 4, 5 fights, which he can easily do based off the names that we're calling, then a lot of these athletes, especially boxers, man, they're looking for that early retirement, 36, 37, where they're not putting their body at harm, you know?
Yeah, that's big facts, man. Yo, my dude, to close out the year in Designated Reports Boxing Podcast, you certainly came with the ammo today. A lot of great points. I've had a lot of fun doing this. Really looking forward to everything we're going to do next year. Talking about being able to go to some fights.
Facts.
You know, get some behind the scenes.
Dude, I got the mink on layaway too, bro. I'm ready. Frank Lucas.
You gonna wear the mink in Vegas, baby?
Yo, Frank Lucas, baby.
Love it. All right, so tell the people about some of the things that we're gonna do coming forward, coming up, just because there's not gonna be any fights, and let them know where they can find us on all those platforms.
Yep. So as you know, today's the last episode. So we're going to try to do an end of year wrap-up episode where we talk about some of our favorite things that happened, best knockout, best young fighter, round of the year. And we're going to rank, the best fighters pound for pound. I mean, it'll be our opinions. I know you guys are probably going to talk shit to us in the comments like you always do.
We ready.
We'll be looking forward for that. All right. So you can find this episode on YouTube and all the other past episodes on YouTube as well. We've added the link to the audio section in the YouTube as well. So if you're ever watching the video, you might want to switch off to audio. The link is in that specific episode. And you can find us on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Anchor, SoundCloud, and Apple.
Peace.
Peace.